Himself going to be eating a shock dart, but he's able to makes it win anything.
Sam, defend your team because they haven't won.
Strap yourselves in, it's another 1 hour episode.
Oh yeah.
Spike defused.
Welcome to Press 4 to Defuse, your weekly spot for Valorant esports news and discussion, where we're going to be talking about all things Last Chance Qualifier here. We're going to be getting into the news. We're going to be getting into the action. We're going to be talking about Valorant stuff. Valorant, the game that I've been basically ignoring for 3 weeks. I'm back, Sam. I'm back from the wilderness. And
God, can you just leave
today?
again?
Paul, how you doing today?
Hi, I don't want you to leave. I'm glad you're here. It's good to finally meet you and work with you.
Good someone is.
So
Yeah.
Sam can just shush.
Sam's apparently just been bullying our producers in my absence. I feel like I left the kids with their I feel like I left the kids with a babysitter or something, went away, and came back to find out the babysitter's been abusive. Like, this is messed up, man. Cody Shellshock, there's some stuff going on here, Sam. You got crimes to answer for.
It's all banter.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're learning things about Sam here. Goodness gracious. All right, so let's dive into the news. Let's get into stuff that's been happening here. This is a segment we like to call Run It Back, where we run it back over some of the news that's happened over the last week or so-ish. Let's get into it. BBG announced an academy team. BBG Academy. I feel like this has been a point of... Oh, go ahead, Paul. Take it.
I was just going to say, I'm super excited for this roster. I've gotten to cast like 3 of these players somewhat extensively, Shoker, Monsi, and Con Artist. I always like watching these guys play. Shoker especially is just like crazy on Jet. I think that like for this being like an academy roster, I think to sleep on this would be dumb. I mean, they're not going to like do anything crazy like win VCT next year or anything. But I feel like they're going to make some decent waves in the... If they do, this suddenly looks like, we're going to reference
they
this
can't even compete.
30-second clip
Yeah, they haven't
from now, and I'm going to look crazy. But probably not.
I can say confidently that BBG Academy will not win VCT. Because they can't.
Yeah, because they can't compete. Yeah, it's
there is 0% chance that they win it unless this team just gets signed to replace the actual BBG roster, which is possible. That's possible.
It could happen.
No, it's not like BBG's
I think for now I'm pretty content
great
with them as they are, and I'm excited to see them just like hit these like nights tournaments or monthlies for NSG. I think they're going to be doing really good.
So, like, I've been finding the whole academy team thing really interesting, purely because, as far as I'm aware, I think there was an official announcement, or it might have been a Halo tweet, I don't know. But it seems like next year we are not going to franchise. So it's going to be a whole year of quite a few orgs paying their academy rosters to compete in, like, the Knights 10K monthlies, which, I mean, isn't terrible, but it's not VCT, right? And it's just these like small tournaments that their main teams can't or possibly won't participate in. It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, it's always a little bit of an odd structure. I've seen a lot of players talking about it, how it doesn't honestly make a whole lot of sense. But maybe some sort of an academy team construction tournament thing can come through. I know we've just had an academy league crop up in CS, which has been really cool to see, to encourage teams to invest in some of the newer rosters. The thing I find really interesting about this, obviously, coming from having just done a bunch of CS events, is I was just watching Jonji compete over there in IAM Fall. He's now in Valorant. He's made his transition.
There you go.
This did seem like it was sort of coming for a little bit. It's Jonji's making his way over to Val. I'd imagine that he's going to...
I thought that would interest you.
It does. Get a chance to dip his feet into the pool, if you will, here in this academy roster. And I am curious to see how long he stays on an academy roster, because I was honestly surprised to see him signed to one. I'm somewhat curious to see what will happen there. It's almost reminiscent of what happened with that T1 academy, where it was definitely designed to get oh god, what was his name, Sam? The Overwatch Shock guy. What was his name?
The man whose name we do not speak.
No.
No,
The
probably
man
not
who
him.
went to
Okay.
T1 Academy and then left back to
Oh,
Overwatch.
Ons. Ons on
Spider,
Sniper.
Spider.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Oh, you're
Ons.
thinking of Spy? Oh wait, T1 Academy.
No.
Yeah.
No, T1
Okay.
Academy.
Wait.
Okay.
Then it was Ons.
Okay, that
Probably
guy.
not.
All right, I'm torn all over the place here.
Yeah,
Yes,
Spider.
so-
God
Spider
damn
never
that.
played for Shock. Spider was on Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shit,
So
Overwatch
I think
things.
this is again almost reminiscent of that, where it feels like part of the point of the academy team is to get players who are transitioning from another game used to Valorant before potentially moving up to the main roster. Obviously, it didn't work out very well with Ans. He just went back. He was like, I don't actually like this game. I'm out. So we'll see.
Scoring
We'll
great
see what
with
happens
Navera.
with Kanji. Yeah, Navera's crushing it, but I mean, he just straight transitioned into the main.
The one
But
thing
yeah,
about
yeah.
Jonji for me though, there was like a
Okay.
deleted tweet after DreamHack North America about Bad News Bears. Okay, good thing that it's since deleted, but it didn't frame the best light in terms of just general attitude.
Man full tilted. Here's the thing about Jonji. He is a very passionate dude, and that could be excellent. That could be very good, and it can also be to his detriment. He's had these blowups a couple times in his career, and he had a full blowup. He didn't feel like. I talked to him about it afterwards because I got a pretty good relationship with Jonji at this point. Known him for a few years now. And he hit a boiling point where he didn't feel like the same input was being put into the team by some of his teammates as he was putting in, and they weren't getting anywhere. And it was a frustrating situation in ACS. So I can understand it. It definitely wasn't a good response or a good way to handle it. And I know his teammates were not pleased about it, understandably. But we'll see. We'll see if any of that crops back up in Valorant. There is certainly more opportunity here, whereas NACS at that level felt like beating your head against a brick wall that will never come down. So,
Yeah.
yay. Anyway, moving on from that depressing note. Make me sad. Made myself sad.
Strong start.
Pioneers. Their whole dang roster's on trial. What are they guilty of, Paul? What are they guilty of?
That's a good question. I honestly couldn't tell you because Pioneers looked pretty decent in the Knights Gauntlet, right? Like considering that 4 out of 5 of their players are on trial, and like their whole roster is very good too, right? It's not like all these are like unknown quantity players. We've seen literally everyone on this roster in like teams that push toward like top 10 in NA. So for the whole team to be on trial, it maybe just feels like maybe they're just trying to see like, are these the 5 players that mesh together the best? Maybe there's 1 or 2 we want to sub out. Maybe they don't have roles locked down yet. It certainly feels awkward, but we'll see where it goes, I guess.
I mean, you got players like Thief, JC Stanny, Jammies, like these are not names to just turn your nose up at. These are some really good players. And okay, they didn't find all the success in the world on their previous teams, but it always takes that like step to a different team, right? So like Tens had no success just about on C9. He joined Sentinels and bam, they're the previously best team in the world. So it could be like a similar thing here where these players struggled for a little bit and now we're going to have a chance to see they're already making some pretty damn good waves with a little bit of extra time and effort. I think that this could be a real contender.
It'll be interesting to see. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I think that kind of goes to like exactly that point, Sam, because you can look at all of these players and all these players have done decently well on pretty good teams, but there is some quantity while they were on those good teams that they didn't breach for top 5 or whatever in NA, right? So maybe Pioneers are just a little bit hesitant to just instant sign, oh, these guys are good. We know they'll make a good team. They want to see which players they want to actually build around in the future. I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. It just makes for like a very tenuous period for them while they get that sorted.
I do say I feel a little bit bad for the Pioneers org because it did feel like they were building a pretty interesting team there around Odorous, and then obviously Odorous has moved on to version 1, which you can't blame him. Better opportunity. I'm guessing he's it's a more solid project and he's probably getting some extra cheddar along with the move as well. So you certainly can't blame the guy, but it does feel a little bad for the Pioneers that they're basically rebuilding now, almost entirely from the ground up. But now is the time to do it, right? While you're in the VCT offseason, now is the time to rebuild and figure out what you're getting going into the new year. Moving on across the pond over to EU, we got a new player on FPX. Fun plus Phoenix now have Suigetsu as the anime names just keep on rolling here, Sam.
Honestly, everyone knows that an anime name gives you +10 to your
That's
damage.
only the
obviously.
pro pick. You gotta have the anime pro pick. That's the bonus.
I mean, I don't know if he does, to be fair. Maybe he's got like the double trouble. Who knows?
I'm gonna go check.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, so he was playing on Forza recently, and of course, if you've been following the scene, Forza just kind of imploded. Of course he does. So that's an extra 20, like double trouble.
He even has the anime banner too.
Oh,
there you go, triple threat.
Perfect.
So Forza won the CIS stage 3, and then they went to playoffs, and then they summarily got smacked around. But Suigetsu was a really, really strong player on that team, which is precisely why FPX had been so interested in him. In fact, the rumor of this signing has been floating around for quite some time. And then, of course, the rest of Forza also went boom, but we're probably going to talk about that a little bit later. But I think that this is a really good move for FPX, especially considering when they signed, and for quite a few months thereafter, they were kind of like the EU hope, and they let us down repeatedly. And now is no different. I mean, they didn't make it into LCQ. Everyone was devastated, but you know what? It is what it is. And now it's time to rebuild. Like I said, Mike, perfect time to do so.
Perfect time to do so. Devastation for FPX. That feels like the team that, again, there were these teams from every region, right? That before we had international competition, it was like, these are going to be the teams. These are going to be the teams that are going to be competitive internationally. And then they just haven't ever gotten a chance because they can't make it out of their own region. It's just been such a weird, like, but yeah, TSM. I mean,
God.
Even before this last event, Vision Strikers in Korea after Reykjavik, like, it was just, there were just a lot of these teams that were like supposed to be the heavy hitters. And then when push came to shove and they actually had to qualify through, have just not been able to do it. And it is very kind of funny to me. And FPX feels like that one. So we'll see if this move is the magic key to actually get them through an event. But moving on to our next point. Game changers, EMEA 2. This was an interesting note. I feel like I'm gonna just cede the floor to you here, Sam. This feels like it's your wheelhouse. Take it.
Cool. So when Riot initially announced the Game Changers project, it was announced as a satellite tournament to the main VCT, not secondary, not separate, part of the same thing. And it was intended as a stepping stone to give women the confidence to begin competing so that they could eventually transition into mixed rosters. Okay, so that is the ultimate goal. That has always been the ultimate goal. And I'm going to preface this here with like all of you morons that are saying, Riot wanted an all-female tournament circuit. No, they didn't. At no point did they ever say, we want a female-only tournament circuit for the rest of our lives. No. Okay, but EMEA. NA did their full female tournaments for the entirety of the year. EMEA decided, well, we're just going to like exacerbate the process a little bit, you know, or expedite it rather. Yeah, speed things up a little bit. And so they had this special all-in edition. Now, it's not part of the main Game Changers. It is a separate event called All In, where you would have 3 female players, 2 of which had or could be male, non-binary, because of course in the main Game Changers in EMEA, you can't have non-binary players. You can have transgender, but you can't have non-binary. It's like a legal thing because of so many of like the Middle Eastern countries and so on. It's a whole long story. But this would have been the perfect opportunity for non-binary players to be able to integrate. However, understandably, the female scene lost their minds. Because as much as this is the ultimate goal, it is way too early to suddenly start throwing this in. Way too early. We want to get there at a point, but not right now. And also, because it's a one-off event, you'll have teams kicking 2 of their female players to bring in male quote-unquote carries. And then when the third GC comes around in December, then they bring back their female players. It's, it was a little nearsighted. But Riot, true to form, listened to the feedback and said, you know what? All right, you don't want all in. Cool. So the second game changes is going to be a fully female competition. This does mean, however, as mentioned, that non-binary players will not be able to compete, but it does kind of stick to the truth of the female tournament as we continue to move towards inclusivity.
I gotta say, I do appreciate Riot's willingness to listen to feedback and adjust and change. But I also think the fact that at this point we get one of these for every event, like at least one at minimum, means that maybe they should start thinking about their decision-making process when they're announcing these things. Because seriously, it's like every time one of these brackets or updates or something comes out and the whole community is just like, that's so dumb. Like, what are you doing? And everyone pretty much unanimously has the opinion that they've done something wrong. And everyone's pretty much in agreement on what it is. And then Riot's like, you know what? You're right. We'll change it. Maybe just like think. Maybe
ask.
So you don't have
first
to do this
next time.
Yeah.
Let's start with the community feedback.
Hey, we're going to do something weird and controversial. What do you think about it? Before you put the fucking announcement out. Anyway, whoever's making these decisions, man, it's like, I appreciate your willingness to change and admit you're wrong. That is a big thing to do as a human being. It's hard to do. But this could be avoided.
Always got to wonder if they're doing it on purpose. Like, let's throw out something totally outlandish. And then the community is going to be like, what are you doing? And then we're going to come in and say, yes, community, we will do what no other dev will do. We will listen and we will make changes. Praise us.
I mean,
this is not an all press is good press kind of scenario. No way.
Yeah.
There's no
I don't
way
know, man. The
they're just
anime
trying to
arc is
gigaburn
strong
that.
in this.
That would also be like the next level risky behavior, right? Because then someday you're going to be like, we made the stupidest bracket ever. And the community's going to be like, we fucking love it. And then you're stuck to running that bracket. And you're like, oh, God, we miscalculated, guys. We bet it all on black. It came up red. Oh, no, we bet the house. We can't even afford to run this tournament. Like, it's just going to happen sometime. Speaking of running tournaments that originally had shit formats, let's talk about the last chance qualifiers. Hey! Oceania died so that we could have a reasonable bracket. Your sacrifice was not in vain. And then it turns out that it was never even going to be a LAN in the first place. So
yeah, wasn't it in vain though? Because like we just have to talk about the fact that it's like not actually LAN, right? Like,
yeah, let's talk about this a lot. This is the dumbest thing ever.
Because
bring up the tweet.
I want to understand where they're coming from here,
Cody,
right?
come on, man.
Because like
get with it.
Even in the tweet, they're like, all right, so we wanted to make it so like, if players got quarantined or if there was an issue with travel, like, okay, we were still playing online and stuff. But if that was the case, then what? I cannot imagine being one of the Oceania players who like went through all of the rigmarole and qualified, and then like it comes out, oh, well, it's going to be a LAN and we can't get you there. So unfortunate, you can't play. And then it not actually being played using LAN servers anyways.
In
like,
fairness,
in fairness,
I will say there's no way Oceania could have played online from.
I mean, yeah.
Because the thing is, the way Valorant handles ping, as we realized in the early beta when Korean players were kind of connecting to the US to play, is it gives a massive advantage to the player with high ping.
Yeah.
It's absurd. You could you could just teleport around the map, seeing your opponents before they even get to see you. It's broken. So you can't do that. You could not do online play between continents. It's just not viable in Valorant. It's not viable in any esport, but it's definitely not viable in Valorant. But this is dumb. This is dumb. This is bad. Why are you doing online servers for a LAN? No. Let me have my piece first, Sam.
Okay.
You can give me the rebuttal. Give me the rebuttal.
Go on.
I have just come from an event where they ran a full LAN in person, where the first week of it, players were playing from hotel rooms in complete isolation. Complete isolation in their hotel rooms, either with their teams, or if they needed to be isolated in their own room, it could be from their own room. Hotels have the network infrastructure to run that. If they don't, you can run cables in the hallways. It's viable. But most hotels at this point have the Ethernet infrastructure to make that a viable thing without actually putting cabling in. Because, it's the 21st century and the internet's been a thing for a while. And high-speed internet is a pretty big must for a top-end hotel, especially in a place like, I don't know, LA. So the idea that you would only have been able to run a LAN server if the players were on the stage is ludicrous and incorrect. And like, I get it, it's a pain in the ass to run cabling and make sure everything's going to be all right. but it's more of a pain in the ass to have players bugging out in the server, so 3 of them are walking into the same wall for 10 seconds before they zip back in and a proto gets shot in the head. Like, this was
funny.
such a bad look for Valorant. It's just such a bad look. It's an absolute travesty. The players are so pissed. I mean, you can just think the fact that player comms are like, I'm rubber banding on the biggest tournament for the last chance to make champions is absurd. You run a LAN. Even if you're using the excuse that if someone was in the hotel, we'd have to go online. Okay, use that as a backup, man. If all 10 players are on stage, connect to a server. Run it LAN. There's no reason everyone should have to play in shit conditions in case someone gets COVID. I mean, just... All right, I've ranted. Sam, you're allowed to rebut now. I'll see the floor.
All right, well, it's less of a rebuttal now, but there are 2 players who potentially will have to play from their hotel rooms. Shanks and Def have both tested negative for COVID, but the California government, well, I don't know what you call these people, the California people, have said, I don't know how states work. States are just weird.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the SNL sketch, The Californians? It's actually just them making the decisions.
Oh my God. Anyway, so despite the fact that they've both tested negative for COVID, they're being told they need to isolate. And so they're going to be stuck in their hotel rooms. Now, okay, sure. Probably some workarounds for infrastructure. And I 100% agree that there should have been a backup because we've known about COVID for 2 years. Like, this is not a new thing. COVID was not discovered 2 weeks ago. So there definitely should have been some backups. But for whatever reason, they don't have them. And in that case, I can kind of understand it.
All right.
Yeah, and
I'm going to dive back
it feels
in
like
here.
it was just...
ahead, Paul.
Real quick, it just feels like it was such like a gamble from Riot, like not having an actual LAN server prepared. Like they were expecting enough to go wrong that they would need it all to be online, but not enough to go wrong that the online would be unplayable. Like it feels like this like such weird middle ground of like they didn't want to invest all the resources getting a LAN server in and hooking up with the hotels or whatever. But it all ended up just going absolutely haywire. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the real problem is we wouldn't even be like this would be like a little blip on the radar if it didn't end up costing like critical rounds in important series. Right. Like if a proto doesn't have that crazy clip where he just lags out and then gets bodied the second everybody's back in, you know, we're saying, oh, this is not LAN technically weird, but okay. But the fact that like the infrastructure wasn't even set up properly to where the server was actually a viable option. And it was the only option they had, no other backups. That feels crazy to me.
It's also, I mean, even if we didn't have the egregious round with a proto and other situations, like it's such a difference for the players, right? And the fact that
on LAN is just wild.
It's insane. It's insane. Why is that a thing? But I will say, even in the example of players having to isolate, and the thing for Defs and Shanks is that they both had a positive test. It's probably a false positive, and they've since had negatives, but they're still required to isolate a certain amount of time. I think it's like you need to have like 2 negative tests and like 48 hours between them is normally the thing to make sure that you're not getting a false negative and still contracting, which makes sense. But you could still run it from the hotel. Here's what I think is happening for Riot, though. Mm-hmm. I think they don't want to get into a situation. Because the thing is, if you were going to run a LAN from the hotel, right? If you're going to run a LAN server from the hotel, you would need to have all of the players in the hotel. And you would need to have the server in the hotel. And so what they don't want to have is a situation where they can't use their stage. So they want to be able to have X players on stage and then maybe 1 or 2 playing from the hotel who need to isolate. So they're using online servers. But to my view, if that's the case, if that's the reason, if that's the logic, you are sacrificing competitive integrity for a show. And in this situation, that to me is not okay, because this is the last chance for these teams to make champions, which is a huge opportunity for them. So that's if that's the justification, which I can see and I can understand from a logistics standpoint, you just going, all right, we'll just play it online. It makes more sense. It makes it much easier. But nah, not here. You can't do that. You can't sacrifice competitive integrity for the stage. Yeah. It's a blunder. What a blunder. You could just show empty stages and it would be better, provided the players could actually play on a LAN server. All right, I feel like that's my rant done on that one, but holy shit, what a blunder. That's my wrap up point on this. This is it's a huge black mark on what should be a really cool tournament. And it's just stupid. It's not a LAN. I liked Zekin's tweet where he's like, "I'm not even going to be land.
I'm not gonna
after
get
playing
land
it before."
Yeah.
And it's
The one
doubly
that played
true
in the
because there's
first
no
LAN.
audience, right? There's no audience though on an online server. It's literally not a LAN except for the fact that you can yell at the other players. Like
Yeah,
what
you're just
the
in a
LG
less
coach
comfy
was
Which,
doing,
to be
right?
fair, is like 50% of the fun.
Mac was the only one making it a LAN. You know, being the
Mac.
LG coach and yelling
love
over
Mac.
every single round. He was the only
Mac
one
is my
actually making it a
favorite.
LAN.
I have a saved clip on my computer of Mac chugging a game fuel at a global challenge and then shouting "Yes, sir!" after he chugged the whole
Oh,
tall
God.
boy can. Is the greatest
Shout
thing I've
out.
ever seen in person.
Actually, speaking of coach shenanigans, so apparently
Okay.
I saw Vanity throwing some shade about this, but apparently Elmer Putty
Elmo Putty.
is coaching remotely, which is causing a bit of a stir.
Yeah, at that point, why not just let the Oceania players play with a bazillion ping? Like the dude's playing from home. Do they have cams on him? Do they have cams on him? They better have cams on
Well,
him.
Elmer Putty's
And-
coaching, but still,
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah, but he can
Yeah.
still have the stream up on a second monitor. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
he will. I think Elmo Putty's probably I don't know anything about Elmo Putty, to be honest with you, but I'm sure he's a stand-up guy. But this is a situation where you've now introduced so many factors that are outside of your control as an organizer. You know, unless you have, so the thing they do in CS now is you literally have to have a camera that's pointed in the corner of your room at your screen, so they can see exactly what's on your
Okay.
screen from the camera. So unless they have that kind of a situation, there is a massive chance for this to have competitive integrity issues in terms of being able to
mhm.
like Google stuff at the right time, like pull up like, I mean, dude can have docs
Sure.
and like it's just weird, right? It's just weird. It's a weird thing
Yeah.
that they're like, yeah, sure, you can coach remote, whatever. This is fine. It's online servers. This is fine.
Yeah, a lot of the LCQ stuff just feels a little bit haphazard, and it's across regions too, right? Like there's been a lot of tech issues.
Yeah.
Like it
Oh,
it
yeah.
feels
I mean, we're
very
not
thrown
TI
together.
level of tech issues, but
No.
Feels like a lot of the decisions are being made by someone who's never been to an FPS LAN or has never coordinated one, which is possible because obviously Riot, unless you're part of the people who've been doing the international events,
Yeah.
you haven't yet. But
I
Yeah.
don't know what's going
I'll give
on
you a
in
hint.
terms of like
there's a lot of great production freelancers out there. Hire people. Bring in consultants. Please. So there's a couple of guys in Arizona that could really help you out. Do Not Peak Studios. They're right there. It's pretty close to LA, I think.
yeah. That's the thing, yeah.
They've run a
Some of the best
fair
in the
few
biz.
CS lands in their days. All I'm saying is, if you need some consultants or something, like there are a lot on hand. I mean, even in LA, right? Like BTS is there. They've run CS events. Like just go talk to somebody who's run them before. Maybe they have people, but it really does feel from the outside like these are some decisions that are being made by someone who just hasn't run events.
Yeah, and I don't know what the timeline was for any of this either. Like I'm not gonna pretend that
Obviously
I
short
can
enough
see-
that they couldn't get Aussie visas, right?
Yeah, well.
exactly, right? So like, I imagine a lot of this has just been very
Mike.
cramped. They gotta get all the LCQs like over and done with so that they can make sure that there aren't issues like with the OCE guys trying to come to NA for them shipping all the players and coaches and staff and everyone out to wherever they end up putting champions. So it comes with the territory to an extent, but I don't know if it had to be this extent.
It looks dumb. All right, now let's talk about the actual games. Rubber banding
Yes,
and
the
all.
fun part.
Let's talk about the results. 100 Thieves beat Gen G. 100 Thieves beat Gen G. I feel like that was probably the expected result coming into it. What do you make of it, Sam?
Yeah.
Oh, Paul.
I
Never
will
mind.
say that like the
Go for
whole first thank you. Mine. Yoink. The first couple of maps kind of seemed like 100 Thieves good on defense, bad on attack. It was surreal. They would have like a runaway first half, and then the second half would just be like, "Meh." And they did manage to win out the second map and the third, which was great. But it was a bit of a rough start. I was expecting them to do far better. Okay, and then they went through and they managed to 2-1 exit. So woo. But definitely not the strong showing that I was expecting.
I mean, classic 100 Thieves stuff, right? Lose the first map, win the series.
Valid.
It's just literally all 3 games yesterday in NA. Whoever lost the first map won the series. All 3 games. as far as
Anyway,
the Gen G
wild.
100 Thieves games go, it definitely felt like more of a slow start than it needed to. Nitro especially. I was worried watching Breeze. I was like, oh no, they've put Nitro on the jet full time now, and it is not working. Definitely warmed up throughout the day though. Really came into his own and looked super comfortable. And I think part of what happened on Breeze was just Gen G look like a very weird team now. I don't know when this happened. I can't remember the last time I saw Gen G play and I actually analyzed their stuff, but they have so many rounds where they just do something really weird. And on Breeze it worked, right? They had one where they pushed all four or four players through Nest and then had one sitting in Cave, and they flushed the A defenders into the lurk. And it was really cool. And then they had another where they lost cave control, so they planted backside on A in their attack. They had some really cool stuff on Breeze. And then they kept trying to do weird stuff throughout the series, and nothing else landed. Not a single other weird thing they did landed on either of the maps. Split, I was scratching my head watching Gen G play a lot of those rounds where they walled who was it? I think they walled Sean into mid for going for a fake, hoping that someone would come up into vent, and then 100 Thieves were just nah, we're good.
Nah.
We're just gonna chill, and they waited until 20 seconds to actually push. And that was just one of
remember
4 rounds I have written down where it was what are these weird plays? None of them worked. Outside
see
of
what was
Breeze, none of
happening.
the weird stuff Gen G had worked.
What was happening was Elmo Putty was calling strats, but with the ping difference, half the strat was getting cut off, and they were just
you're
going
right,
with it.
Must
And then
be
you
it.
had to wait
Must
3
be it.
minutes for the stream delay as well. So
Yeah, to catch up, so you
know.
could see what was happening. That's what was going on there.
God.
Yeah, but I mean, a little bit of a. I'm trying to think. Is it a disappointing showing for Gen G? I feel like it's still obviously not winning is disappointing, but 100 Thieves you got to expect to be one of the tougher teams here in this bracket.
Yeah. I don't feel
Today will be
Gen-
more of a test.
Well, they don't play today, do they? Not Gen G.
Well, whatever. Their
They
next
play-
match.
Yeah, they
right?
played them all.
The 14.
Wait, yeah,
against
they do.
LG will against
No,
LG will be really
it's
interesting.
the other side of the bracket today, and then lower bracket starts Friday,
Yeah.
Thursday.
I don't know.
Against
Y'all do your
LG
bracket
will be
weirdly.
Really interesting. Yeah, I don't.
We do our
I'm not
bracket
entirely
weirdly?
sure what the
You
well, because
do.
we do
EU makes
the-
sense. All right. EU, we do the
the
first
top half and
2
then the
games
bottom half
one
is a
day.
little weird. I
And then
will
we do
say
the
that.
So
bottom
it's
half.
because it's a venue, right? So it's you can only
Yeah.
have X number of teams on site at one time.
Yeah.
So the idea is then I actually disagree with playing with winners play too. I think that it should be, if you win, you get a day off before you
that's
play
the
your
weird
next
part
match.
to me.
But it's a practicality thing of with COVID, with
Yeah.
getting teams on venue, with having X number of spaces for them. It's saying, okay, we have these 4 teams on venue, run their games. And then once we're done with their games, I mean, obviously, I think Gen G Luminosity should have then played the lower instead of having 100 Thieves XSET play the upper, but whatever. I think that winning should give you the luxury of preparing for your next opponent. But that's why you're doing half the bracket, then half the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I feel like the losers from this should play the losers. You should mix it up, right? Gen G should play whoever loses Phase Rise or something, as opposed to playing
Yeah.
Luminosity, because then you're just stuck to one side of the bracket, and that's
I
silly.
think
Yeah.
the reason they do that is so that in the lower round 2 they won't have any repeats, right? So if Gen G was in the if
Yeah.
Luminosity was 1 spot lower and then they beat whoever matched them, they would have to rematch XSET immediately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think they do it this
Yeah,
way so
makes
that
sense.
this way they're playing, whoever wins out of Gen G and Luminosity plays whoever loses from the other upper semifinal, right? That way you don't
Gotcha.
get repeats until at least lower round 3. And by that time teams have played, 2-3 more matches. So it's a more fresh game.
That makes sense. Speaking of Luminosity, let's talk about Luminosity XSET. XSET take that one 2-1. That's
That was a match.
yeah. Get into it.
Dude,
That was
the
it was a
first
very
map.
weird one.
Dude, the first map goes 13-2, and I'm just like, are you on the server? What the hell is going on? And the best part of this is that how many people came into LCQ XSET gonna win the whole thing. They're looking so good. They're going to Masters.
Yeah.
Ha! But what is this team? Okay, they managed to eke it out, and okay, they get taken out by 100 Thieves, so now they are down in the lower bracket. But I feel like there's a huge question mark here on this team. The Hopium was like flowing coming into the tournament, and they are just, I'm not going to say that they are like straight up disappointing, but they don't have a ton of chances here to make a turnaround, because after that display, yes, they do win out the series against LG, but to go 13-2 is a little bit ridiculous on, I think it was their map. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, it was their map. They went 13-2 on their own map. It was actually ridiculous. So yeah, some serious bootstrap pulling up of socks, etc. needs to happen here.
I think there is two parts to this that make me not quite as worried for Xset. Like, I'm not convinced, obviously, but there are two things that make me not so worried for Xset. One is there was actually an interview with a proto on Plat Chat, and they were talking about, like, okay, you guys have played Xset a lot. The record before this game between Xset and Luminosity was like Xset 5, Luminosity 1. Like, Xset constantly claps Luminosity. LG said that they would have rather played Sentinels in the quarterfinals of like LCQ than Xset, because they just always lose to Xset. So LG did a ridiculous amount of prep for this Xset game. I think they had a read that it was going to end up on Haven for the first map, because Xset play a lot of Haven. And then Luminosity came out with a somewhat refreshed style that threw Xset off. And then also, a lot of those players on Xset are really young. They haven't had LAN experience, right? On stage, first-time jitters. You can always throw that into the mix just as a little bit of, silver lining, I guess, for the team. It definitely felt like Xset got a better and better read on LG throughout the series. And for me, what I look for in a really competitive Valorant team, especially when we move on to things like Champions, where you're playing against teams you've never played against before. You have no idea what they're going to do other than what you've caught on their VODs. Adaptability is like huge, and I think Xset still have enough of that to where I'm not super concerned.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. And also, speaking to the young players' point, just it doesn't really matter since everyone was shit, but Zekin and Aaron were theoretically bottom of the board for Xset, and those are the two young players who I don't think have any LAN experience. I know Zekin doesn't. I don't know if Aaron does. BCJ and Pure have both played LANs. Pure has played a ton of East Coast LANs back in the day. That's where I know him from. And BCJ played Battlefield 1944. I know he went to the Fragadelphia for that, and I think he played I want to say he was a PUBG guy before that, so he's played LANs I think before, but I'm not sure, with a crowd or on a stage or that kind of thing. I'm not sure if his exact comp experience.
And Zekin woke up throughout that series. Zekin on map 1 like basically didn't load in, but Zekin on map 3 on Split was pounding.
That first game, right, where you're on the stage, you're in the lights, you maybe don't have your setup just right, you don't have your monitor set, you're figuring out your settings and all that stuff. You got the lights straight in your eyes, like there's a smoke machine blowing smoke up your nose, like it's always a little bit of an adjustment for sure. So.
I mean, average ACS between map 1 and 3 for Zekin. Map 1, Zekin was 120 ACS, and map 3 he was 296 ACS. So I think it's fair to say he definitely needed a second to warm up to playing on the stage.
Just a little bit.
Yep.
Just a bit. We'll see. We'll see if they can make a lower bracket run.
We'll see.
Because they did go down versus the 100 Thieves there, up in the upper. So let's talk about that game. Anyone see anything particularly spicy there?
That one just felt like a lot of gunfights, and I don't like bringing it down to the gunfights. I always try and look for something more analytical, but it was like late at night, and I was pretty tired after watching 10 or 12 hours of Valorant that day. Asuna just really showed up. Asuna came out of nowhere starting on Breeze. That much I can say for certain. The dude was just crazy. I think what was his. He did something nasty on. I don't remember his exact score line. Yeah, he went 27-12 on Breeze. He was basically just walking on to every site, just running around. He had Empress like every other round, it seems, and just clapping everyone on Xset, just clapping them.
Yeah, that's an all right scoreline. Let's talk about the other side of the bracket here too. Let's get into it because then we'll need to shuffle on. I know Sam will kill me if we don't get enough time for EU here.
Yes.
I know we've
especially after the G2 match that just ended. Good grief.
Did it just end? Who won?
Did it just
No, it didn't end. Map 2 ended, and it was 22-20.
Map 2 just ended? We were going into overtime when this show started.
Wow.
22-20, Paul.
Anyway, all right. Focusing
okay, we'll
on
get there,
NA
we'll get
for a
there,
little
we'll
bit
get there.
longer.
Okay.
We're not
I'll let
doing
you
you.
go over to you. Then I'll let you wander off over. All right.
Not
So
yet.
this bottom side of the bracket, FaZe Clan, Rise, and then version 1, Cloud9 Blue. Let's just talk about teams that we're excited for there. Sam, I know you're into Rise, right?
Dude, that is hilarious. So obviously Valorant did a bunch of interviews with some of the players, and Shanks gets up there and starts talking about this Rise squad, and he's like, we're looking so good, and get the tweet up, please. And he's like, we're not gonna drop a single map in the whole tournament. And I'm like, y'all look good? You ain't that good. All right.
I don't know
I'm
every single
sorry.
map.
I do not see Rise going through the entire upper bracket. FaZe Clan. Okay. C9 version 1, maybe they don't drop a map. But then you're coming up against 100 Thieves. And then you get into the grand final against whoever it is that gets the. Bro, you are not dropping a map. All right, let's get something very straight here. I love the confidence. I love the banter. I love that, you know, you're kind of really feeling yourself coming into the tournament. But like, get real. It ain't, especially not if you're playing from your hotel room.
Yeah, that
Oh,
just
no,
feels to me
poor
like
guy.
Shanks is having a bit of fun.
Yeah,
He's having a bit of fun.
I
I do think Rise and version 1 are the two teams that like I'm excited for. Retooled version 1 is going to be interesting. I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
yeah. Very
I
curious
have-
there.
I have not. This is Scrimbuck rumors, so take it with a whole plate of salt, not even a grain, just a whole plate. But I have heard that FaZe have not been looking great in their scrims.
Really?
I have heard that they have been struggling against some teams that they should not struggle against in theory. Again, that's
I'm still on the
scrims
FaZe
really don't
hopium,
mean
though.
anything. I like FaZe. They're all the ex-Overwatch guys. I have to like FaZe. I've signed a contract somewhere that says I have to like the ex-Overwatch guys. Probably.
In fairness, have they looked good in officials really since they dropped Marv or lost Marv?
Have they played officials really since
Yes,
they
and-
lost Marv?
I mean,
Yeah.
they just FaZe have
Yeah,
always been a very
couple.
like up
They're
and
still
down
Smeagol.
team.
I mean, they still be with Baby J
They're still
and
Smeagol. That's a good way to put it.
Baby
got a new
J and what is the other? Oh God, I always forget because the names are so similar.
Baby Bay and Baby J.
Baby Bay and Baby J. There you go. With the two of them
Yeah.
together, they've actually been doing pretty damn well. I'll be honest.
I have actually liked Baby J as an addition to this team. I think he like
Yeah.
adds just like a little bit of a tempered head to where not all 5 players are constantly
Smeag,
sending it
yeah.
down wherever they want. Yeah, exactly, right? I'm still not fully convinced that FaZe is gonna make any sort of waves in this tournament. I think even on their better days, they would struggle against teams like 100 Thieves and Xset. Maybe if
still
they have a
can't-
good day, they'll win a couple matches in a row, but they're not going to win the qualifier.
I still can't wrap my head around the fact that JDM is now coaching this team and where the hell that move came from.
Yeah.
It's like, where did they
Came from
even
Counter-Strike,
find
Mike.
JDM
Come
at this
on.
point?
Do you
Yeah,
not follow
he hasn't
Counter-Strike?
played. He hasn't competed in CS in years. Right when Valorant came out, he like left and said he was going to Valorant, and then never joined a team. Didn't play any Valorant. Didn't do any officials. Stopped streaming Valorant.
researching.
Evil like disappeared into the desert and came back like a fucking faith healer or some craziness. Like dude's like, I mean, I don't know what this dude's been up
How to
to.
go on a
but
spiritual journey, dude.
seriously, like
Exactly,
this guy
man.
just been doing shrooms in the desert for the last year. I don't know where he's been. I don't know what he's been doing. He just came back and he's like Lounge Nation. Now I'm a coach. Now
We
I'm
have
a
to clip
health
this.
guy.
It's
I'm a
going on Reddit.
guru. Like, what is happening? I do not know how they came across this move. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe he's gonna be good. There is literally nothing in his CS career to really have made me thought he was inclined towards coaching. But it's just it's just such an out of left field move where they were like, we're announcing JDM. And I'm like, he's still around? What is he doing? Where has he been? Like, what is he? Where? What? I'm so confused. I really just hope we get JDM interviews because I just hope someone asks him, "Where the hell have you been?"
I bet
I hope he
the Flat
sees
Chat
the
guys
inevitable
will find a way to
clip.
do that.
Dude, I'm gonna make a clip, and I just hope he
Come on,
finds
Jesus.
that clip, and then when somebody answers him, he's gonna go, "Yeah, I was doing shrooms in the desert."
Dude, I mean, maybe that's how you need to expand your mind to be a coach. To go from being like ego death, you're no longer selfish as a player. You know, you're just wholly for the
Sure,
team. That's
yeah.
how you transition to being a coach. Maybe that's what you need, some psychedelics. But I don't know, man. It's just like how did that move happen? But anyways, we'll see if FaZe with JDM can now lounge nation their way into some wins here. I don't know about that one, Chief. I think I'm all in on Chaos 9 from this side of the bracket. I'm feeling pretty good about the Chaos 9 roster.
Didn't they just drop one of the
good.
Chaos guys as well? And we don't have MCE. Like, come on.
No, they didn't
You're
drop any
reaching.
of the Chaos guys. They added them.
Did they not?
They have
No, they
no.
dropped. Was Zeppa not on Chaos 9? I don't know. C9
Zeppa's
thinks.
still
I
on
mean,
the team.
Zeppa's
Zeppa's still
things.
listed as on the roster.
Was
What are
it
you talking
Floppy?
about?
Dude,
Floppy
somebody got
left the
benched. It
team.
was
Floppy
either...
was not part of
Okay,
Chaos.
Floppy, there you go.
Floppy
Okay,
left
there
the
you
team,
go.
yes.
Counter-Strike
But
things,
no,
I don't know.
yes, no. Chaos 9 is continuing to be built with the addition of Vanity. Now we just need MCE. Janji's now in Valorant. Bring Janji in, and then you just need to convince Marky to make the switch, and you rebuilt the full
There you
Chaos
go.
roster.
There you go.
But anyway,
Somehow I don't see that happening, but
no, I don't either. But they've got good pieces right now, so I am curious to see how that team's going to do. Let's move on. Let's move on from NA Last Chance because I've spent way too much time on it already. So let's dive into you. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about what's
We still
happened.
got time, so.
G2 just got into a third map against Futbolist. So that's pretty wild. Futbolist, I would say, massively overperforming expectations here, Sam.
yeah, absolutely. I definitely had Oxygen going a little bit further in the upper bracket before dropping down to the lower, but Futbolists have been looking pretty freaking good, especially when you consider that Futbolists are now currently playing against G2. They just completed map 1, which they won. I don't remember the exact scoreline, but they won the first map. The second map, as we were just
13-7.
kind of losing our minds, there you go, 13-7. It's actually a pretty respectable scoreline. And the second map, as we were just yelling about, went to 22-20. I was actually like, while you guys were talking, I was like half listening and actually watching the last round because it was, you know. I am really impressed, and the addition of what is his name? Not Quick. What is his name?
Kiwi.
What is his name?
At least that's
Kiwi,
how
that's the
cast
one.
people frame it.
Yeah. He's been doing so well. Really, really
Dude was
impressive
popping off
overall.
today.
Dude, he's ridiculously good. And Sturburn as well. Like, the clutch potential from this player has been out of this world. I'm rethinking my entire pick'ems at this point.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, I was pretty much completely unfamiliar with the Futbolist lineup before, like, today, 2 hours ago, and I was like, oh, I'll get up, and I have to get up for this anyways. I'll get up earlier and I'll watch some EMEA. Sturban has quickly become like one of my favorite Viper players. Any Viper who lurks on Icebox immediately works their way into my heart because it's just such a good way to maximize your utility. You know, you're throwing down the utility anyways. It's staying put. It's not going anywhere. You don't need to be anywhere near it. So lurking through Icebox as an attacking Viper, like there is nothing that is higher value in my opinion, especially if you do it right. And he was just crazy. He was crazy with it on Icebox. Then we moved on to I don't know what happened on Breeze. Breeze is
well, we were doing this show, so like
yeah, exactly. Like we load into this show for like call time 30 minutes before, and it's 9-3 G2. I'm like, okay, cool. They're gonna go to the third map. And then all of a sudden we're about to go on and it's entering overtime. Now here we are 50 minutes later, and that has just wrapped up somehow. I don't know how Ascent is going to go. I think that might be a little bit of a difficult map based on the fact like you can't really put Sturban on the Viper, and Sturban's Viper seems to just be crazy for this team. Like he dropped almost 40 on Breeze. Kiwi dropped over 40, which is insane.
Honestly.
Like that. Suddenly I am like, because of how well Futbolists have performed, I am infinitely more interested in this EMEA lineup.
Yeah, it spices things up in a big way, doesn't it? It makes things a little bit weird. It feels like every EMEA event we get one of the teams that we didn't really expect and as suddenly is making a run through. Now, does that mean that we just have teams improving at a rapid clip, or does it mean that EMEA is random because the level's so low? I'll leave that up to you to decide.
Considering EMEA just won Masters and Sentinels didn't even make it into the semis?
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Gambit is an excellent team.
Yeah, the
That's
EMEA
all
team,
I'll say.
Gambit. Yeah, really good
Yes,
team.
you're right. You're right. They are. They are a very good team.
The
I
players
will
that live in
completely give that
Moscow,
to
which
you.
is part of the EU. Yeah, 100%.
Eh,
Yeah,
CIS region. CIS
just
region
saying.
in terms of esports.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the EU. Yeah.
And
Not in terms of
esports,
Riot,
it's not.
because, you know, CIS
Not
is
in
not
terms of-
actually a region. It's all part of the EMEA.
Okay, but
All,
real talk
we're
though,
one
Sam.
big happy family.
I gotta pick your brain though, Sam, because who like
Go on.
outside of the teams that have already qualified, right?
Mhm.
Because like Ascend, Gambit, they look good, right?
Right.
What teams are you excited for in the EMEA like last chance qualifier? Because for me, really
Yeah.
looking at it, I was like, okay, Supermassive and Guild are super interesting. Liquid, G2, I'm interested in all those teams. And then I watched the Supermassive Guild game. I feel like that was kind of a spaghetti fest from both teams.
Yep.
And then Supermassive go down and they drop like just an awful map of Split to One Breath Gaming. And suddenly I'm not interested in any team other than like Liquid in this bracket, and maybe Footballist if they somehow beat G2 in this third map.
I'll be honest, with the addition of Nevera, I am very interested in Liquid. Like, Liquid is like the anti-FPX. They're the if FPX is like, oh, EU's hope, Liquid is like, it's that team that, wait, they did something? And then you get into the next tournament, it's like, it's Liquid again. They what? They're literally the anti. And now with Nevera on the squad, oh my god, his very first round in competitive Valorant was an ace. Like,
Yeah.
who does that? And then
CS
now
players.
they've started running now they're running this double op strat, which again, CS things, I guess, because you don't see double ops in Valorant. Maybe on Breeze occasionally, but even then, like, very, very seldom. They are running this double op strat, and it is out of this world. And somebody tweeted this, I can't remember who it was, but it's like, on the A site, there's Nevera. On the B site, there's Scream, and in mid is Yampy. What do you do? Where do you go? Like, I guess I'll die.
FF.
Like,
FF for 5 rounds. That's what you do.
Honestly, the squad is just so freaking good. I will say, though, that I'm really excited to see a little bit more from Guild, because as we all know, this is a team that I've been hard supporting since they were still bonk. I love this roster so much. I love this team. So I really want to see them, do better. I actually had Supermassive winning out the whole thing, but after their performances the last couple of days, definitely rethinking that. Definitely rethinking that.
Yeah. No. That one's a rough one. That one's a rough one. Well, let's talk about this One Breath situation, because I know you put notes in here, Sam. So I feel like this is again where I just want to cede the floor to you for a little rant here, a little bit of a rant.
All right, so this is obviously like the first in a series of tweets. So if y'all want to go and read the whole Yonta spiel, go right ahead. But basically what happened was, we spoke about Forza. Suigetsu came from Forza, now on FPX. Then 3 other players. Okay, first and foremost, it was One Breath released their entire roster in August, mid-August. A month later, they pick up 3 of the Forza players, and 2 of their players stay. It was Spike and Mincy? I don't know. Then 3 days later, they get another player from Forza. Oh wait, no, sorry, it was 2 previously. Then they pick up the third. So now you've got 3 Forza players, and in that instance, if I'm not mistaken, there's like a super complicated thing because of how the points work with players and teams and how you actually get to last chance. But something like Forza has to give over the spot or something. It's very complicated. But
One Breath, the players keep the spot rather than the org. So if you have 3 of the 5 who made it, then
but there was something that had to do with permission as well. Like, the rules were super vague. But point being, so One Breath takes the spot from Forza. Then they absolutely, this is a phrase that I do not use, but they shit the bed. Like, they performed so badly. And so Yonta tweets out, they had 9 practice days before LCQ. This is going to sound like possibly the meanest thing that I could possibly say, but what the hell were you doing at LCQ with 9 practice days? Like, okay, I get it. The 3 players from Forza, they earned that spot. They worked really hard to do that. But, like, 9 days? And you're like expecting to what? Get to champs? Like, what are you getting out of this apart from like a tournament that you get to get absolutely shit? This is the weirdest happenstance. And you know what? I'll admit it. Part of this is because I really wanted to see FPX at LCQ, but it's also because like this is just crazy. Like it's just such a weird situation.
Yeah, it definitely feels awkward. I mean, I do like that Yanta goes on Twitter and like kind of defends the players because obviously, at least from the little I understand about this situation, it doesn't really seem like, you know, this was on the players, right? You know, if they only got 9 days of practice as a team, it feels like it was because the org put the roster together really haphazardly, desperately to try and get an LCQ spot. So, you know, I don't want to pin the loss on those 5 players then, but it just seems like such a mishandling by whoever was in charge.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. It's a rough situation to be in. I think Yontas is absolutely to credit to go to bat for his player. And at the end of the day, if you're a team and someone says, hey, you got a slot in LCQ, are you going to play it? Yeah, you're going to say yes. Maybe you're not expecting to go through, but there's always a chance. There's always a chance that you can pug out and actually beat teams and give yourselves a real chance and rise up the ranks and put your team on notice. Even if you don't get that LCQ spot, you still got to take the opportunity. No team in their right mind is ever going to be like, yeah, but someone else probably deserves it more than us and gives it up. Like, that's just not. They're competitors. They want an opportunity. They want to win. They have a responsibility to their organization to take it as well. Like, they're always going to take that. Maybe they shouldn't have been given the opportunity, but if they're given the opportunity, I don't care if you deserve it. You take it. You take it 100% of the time. So I will say that. Yeah. All right. So we've actively got games playing out here, so it does feel a little weird to like talk about games. But let's just go ahead and say it. Who do you think? We'll do it for both of them, right? We'll start with EU. We'll go back to NA. Who do you think is making it through to get the champion spot? Who you got?
Paul, go ahead. You're the guest.
I'll start.
That's called Sam wants extra time. He's advocating.
I was hoping for EMEA. Sam would just jump the gun and be like, my region. I mean, I gotta say Liquid at this point, right? I feel like Liquid definitely looked the most exciting. It's hard to confidently say Liquid just because I don't know how much of their quarterfinal match was them playing out of their minds and how much of it was the roster they played against only got 9 days of practice and was not ready for that spot, especially to play Liquid with Nevera in the roster now. But I am going to go with Liquid. I think they look the cleanest as of right now.
Yeah,
for me, it would have been a toss-up. Yeah, it would have been a toss-up between G2 and Liquid. But if G2... G2 need to step up, given that they've looked a little shaky, particularly right now with how they're playing against Footballist. But if Liquid kind of continue on their current trajectory and just keep improving, then I can definitely see Liquid taking this one. So I'm a little on the fence, but for the sake of the show, I'll say that I lean into the Liquid pick.
That feels like the opposite of for the sake of show. You got to get controversial. Shout the G2 pick.
I'm always
Footballist all the way, baby. Football.
Gotta go super.
No, I genuinely don't actually know.
Oxygen's making it.
I genuinely don't know enough about Footballist to make that call. Look, at the end of the day, I'm going to throw my weight behind Liquid as well. Nevera and Nevera's brother going to be able to make the role.
So
Nevera's brother's all right as well.
Nevera's brother.
Nevera's brother's all right. He's okay. He's an okay guy. I hear he's got some history in another game before.
I hate you
he's
so
done some
much.
things. They're going to do all right here. They're going to do all right. I feel like they're going to take that spot. And genuinely, I would like to see this Liquid roster on international competition. It feels like we've been denied multiple times because they keep choking. So hopefully they don't choke this time. Or they have, maybe Nevera knows the Heimlich. That's all I'm saying. Like maybe he's got the Heimlich down. He's been brought into the roster to Heimlich them when they need it. So that's our EU one. So let's throw it up for NA too. Let's throw it up. Who you got? Who's taking that spot for NA? Who we think's taking it?
I mean, this is super easy now, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Go on, man.
I think the two favorites for this tournament were by far 100 Thieves and Xset, and now we know which one of those at least won the first match. So I'm gonna go with 100 Thieves because that's the boring, safe play.
All right, all right. I mean, boring, safe play. Sam, who you got?
Look at the math. Math says yes.
God. All right. I am going to stick with my copium, and I'm going to go ahead and say FaZe. We haven't seen them play yet, so hopefully they don't disappoint me. But what are you looking at me like that for, Paul? Hello?
Yeah, I think
Of
you're gonna be
all
so
the-
disappointed in the first round. I think you're gonna be your love for old Overwatch players has beguiled
Oh shit,
you.
you're right,
I
because
do
Rise
not
isn't
think
gonna
this is
drop a
gonna go
map,
well.
so obviously that means
Yeah,
Faye's gonna.
you've
Yeah,
already
yeah.
spaghettied it. Unlucky.
But
already lost.
anyway, I've got. I'm trying to decide how wild I'm gonna be about it.
Go
Go on
wild.
then. Pick
You know what? I
Cloud9.
think XSET's taking it. No, I think XSET. I think that XSET needed
Okay,
more
fair
time this
enough.
season on stage, but I think they're going to get their revenge through the lower bracket, and I think they're going to take the final spot. It was either that or Cloud9. That was my other one. But I think
that
XSET's
wasn't nearly as wild as I thought.
the
When you said
XSET
wild, I
XSET
thought you were going to
feels.
say FaZe Clan.
Well, I feel like it's pretty wild to pick a team that's already been knocked down to the lower bracket, right? No, FaZe Clan's going to be dog shit. I don't have any interest in them.
No. Paul is relying far too much on his friggin' scrim bucks, all right?
No, I'm
going for
It doesn't
XSET.
matter for the scrim, but there is no possible. Even if the one tiny scrim bug thing I heard, which is honestly not that reliable, is wrong, I would not be shocked. But I would be shocked if FaZe made it to the upper finals and even got
Yeah,
to
I'd be
see
shocked.
100 Thieves this tournament.
Yeah,
Bet.
yeah. We'll see. I mean, you've clearly just made the bet. You've clearly just made the bet. You put your announcement out there. You've staked
we
your
go.
reputation on this particular bet. And speaking of reputations, if we haven't
Eh,
ruined
not much
ourselves
of a
enough this
reputation.
episode, we'll be back next week to ruin it as well. This is going to wrap up our show. We're done here. But one final thing we do want to talk about before we go off. Some news hit literally as we were going live. It's very sad, shocking news. Kickstar has passed away. Don't think anyone saw this coming. This was very much out of left field. And Taro's posted a statement from his family. You don't know the details around it, but you know if you or anyone you know is struggling, please reach out for help. This is a hard time for a lot of people. There are resources available. There are people who love you and care about you. Speak to your friends. Talk to people. This is a tragedy. He was a very young guy, brilliantly talented caster, smart guy. This is hard to process. But we want to take a moment to show our appreciation for the guy and all that he did in Valorant, in Rainbow Six as a human being. And it's a real shame. And that's going to be our show, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you then. Bye, everyone.